Okay, so it just doesn't end. And now that man has been using that pen like it's unlimited ink.
Right. And what an idiot. I mean, he thinks everything in government can be done by executive order, and it can't. That's the thing that kills me is that it's like he just has an idea and he's like, oh, let me just do an executive order. Sir, that is not how any of this works at all.
He's acting as if like that's I think how the main public. I think that's what the main public thinks an executive order
Right.
is.
No, you're right.
Can we clarify what is an executive order?
So, because like we were talking about last week, there's three branches of the government. The executive branch has the ability to do something called executive orders, which means like he can sign things that are directives for agencies to follow. For like agencies and other things that the president wants to have happen, but it cannot supersede. There are some things that are done by Congress that the president could not just undo with an executive order. Case in point, getting rid of the Department of Education. That wasn't created by executive order, so you can't just get rid of it by executive order.
But my only question is, does that get rid of my student loans too?
No, it's not going to get rid of student loans, because probably what will happen is, and I've seen some articles already saying this, that they'll just move student loans to another portion of the government to handle like collection for student loans. But the reason why people should still care about the Department of Education, net with Trump basically giving directions to get rid of the Department of Education, because again, executive order cannot just get rid of the Department of Education. The reason why people should care about this is because the Department of Education has been that federal agency that makes sure that there's equity in schools.
Right.
So
right.
when you live in a neighborhood that has a school that's under resourced, which usually happens to be in Black and brown communities, the Department of Education makes sure that those schools, they try to help them get the resources that they need, so that the kids who go to those schools are not just receiving like terrible education. The Department of Education also makes sure that if you have a disability and you're attending school, that things are equitable for you to attend. Make sure it's fair. So you can think of it this way. It's like when you go in public places now, especially like a government building, but schools are also under the same thing. If you are somebody who is living with a disability, let's say you're in a wheelchair, the fact that we have wheelchair ramps and things like that in schools, that's the Department of Education saying,
Wow.
because you're in a wheelchair, doesn't mean that you just won't get an education. So there's a lot that the Department of Education does. They also make sure that schools don't return to segregation, as we saw in the 60s.
So is there then a connection with the fact that Trump thinks that he can do whatever he wants with these executive orders, and that the reality is that it does have to go through Congress, it does have to go through many things, have to go through Congress or the courts or anything else? Is that the reason why some of these Democrats are being so lackadaisical, because they're thinking, that's not going to work, it's going to bounce? I'm trying,
Right.
I'm pulling from
I
somewhere.
know you are, and you see my face, and my face looks like that because I'm just thinking, okay, yeah, they probably do think that, but how do you think that when you then know that you're going to go and vote with Republicans to help them pass it, like in the case of the budget? So you want to move this fight to the to the House and the Senate on the floor? That's where you're going to stop Trump? But last time you voted with the Republicans? You make it make sense to me.
None of it makes sense. So the reality is that Trump's administration is trying to get rid of any guardrails, any support for anybody that is not a part of the privileged class.
Right.
And the reality is there's so many things that people have been alarming about, especially disabled folks, because what folks get on my nerves with is this consistent attitude of, that ain't got nothing to do with me.
Right.
Or, oh, that don't affect me. And the reality is, baby, the way that American roulette is in this country, whether it's COVID,
Right.
whether it's a pothole, and an accident, anything could happen, and the odds are not in your favor.
No, and all you have to do is just look at the policies that Republicans talk about. They basically still make policy for the first people who were able to legally vote in this country, and that is white male property owners. All of their policies, when you read them, it still just reflects what's best for white men. So if you are anything other than a white straight man, you can see how these policies leave you out in the cold.
You would think you could see that.
It's common sense.
But it's still some cold coons
Right.
out in the cold.
Right.
So the thing is, that I I wonder, do you think that because it seems a little obvious that this administration don't care about black people,
Hmm.
not just Bush, this
Right.
administration don't
Right.
care about black people, disabled folks,
Right.
trans folks, what have you, do you think that now people will stop associating and aligning with a party that does not consider their needs?
I mean, all I can say is this time around, there are a lot of folks who, for those who thought, oh, well, Trump isn't saying anything that will affect me, I don't see how anybody in any population other than white, straight men will not be affected with all these policies. Because you and I talked about the SAVE Act a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago, and even Trump signed an executive order, even today, revising the voting restrictions that he wants to see put in law. And so he's kind of revised what they were pushing as a SAVE Act to now even say you can't use birth certificate to prove that you are a U.S. citizen. So like the noose just continues to tighten and tighten and tighten around anybody's neck who is not a white straight man. And people better wake up and understand that if you are with the leopards, guess what? It will not be too long before the leopards start to eat your face.
Shout out to Francesca Ramsey, girl. We love your
Boom.
leopard song and the merchandise. Shout out, go get the
Yes.
merchandise, support a black
Yes.
woman.